I heard in Italy, if you're a gold medalist, the government is giving them $1 million or something.
Exactly, like the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
They've never really won one. I would say couple million would not be far-fetched. The sport of badminton in the U.S. has never been taken seriously. It's always been the backyard image.
Yeah,
Hey,
people
look,
play at
where's-
barbecue.
Yeah, where's my
Yeah.
beer and my barbecue
You know.
cookout, right?
Yeah. I'm no world badminton champion. I've won a school national championship in India when I was young. And I tell people about that sometimes when I meet here in San Francisco. They're like, oh, the sport we play at barbecues? Like that kind of sport?
right,
you
yeah.
play that? Like, yeah, we play it professionally.
Gotta be there. I'm losing my cool. I'm on the edge. Something's taking over me. I'm gonna be down on my knees. You know I'm ready for this. You keep me begging for this.
This is the Ocio show with Rahul, where I have deep conversations with interesting people on topics that are meaningful, slightly personal, and perhaps controversial.
Roll with this. I could do this all day. I could do this all day. Back up, I'ma run this town. I'm headed for the top and you know it's going down.
Welcome to the Ocio show with Rahul, season 1, Howard. I'm so thrilled to have you as my guest today.
Thanks for
we're
inviting
shooting
me.
here in San Francisco. So you're a San Francisco boy.
Yes.
So you grew up here, right?
Yes.
I mean, well, for audience, you're a world badminton champion, Olympic athlete. How many Olympics did you represent the U.S.? One or two?
3 Olympics, yes.
3 Olympics. So 3 Olympics. We'll come to that, but you're a San Francisco boy. And so tell me about like your San Francisco life when you grew up here, huh?
Yes, I obviously grew up in the Bay Area. My parents were actually from Vietnam. So long story short, I was born in Vietnam. And at the age of 3, parents immigrated, took us all over to San Francisco. My dad used to play badminton in his
Yeah.
hometown in Vietnam. But
Are you from Saigon?
yes,
Area?
Saigon. Yes, Saigon,
Okay.
Ho Chi Minh City.
Because most people here are from the south of Vietnam, right?
Yes. And my dad used to play, so that's how I picked up the sport. Obviously, we're blue collar families,
Yeah.
so YMCA was the local
Which
facility.
YMCA did you
It was
hit up?
it was on Golden Gate Street or Avenue.
Golden Gate
Yeah, it's
Avenue,
no longer
okay.
there anymore, but that's kind of where my roots were. And
Was badminton popular in Vietnam back when your dad was there?
I think it was more popular than the U.S. for sure. But compared to like the powerhouses, right, like China, Korea, Indonesia, Malaysia, it was not that popular. But enough where people will literally play badminton like they're playing basketball out in the streets, and just they can relate to badminton.
Yeah, it doesn't require a lot of infrastructure. I mean, yeah, the birdies are expensive, but then I'm sure they have ways around some of that back in these nations, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but back then they probably even used plastic birds, so it was minimal. So yeah.
Got it. So San Francisco, you grew up in San Francisco, and then when did you start playing seriously badminton?
My dad, introduced the sport to me. We were leisurely kind of picking it up, and obviously I competed in my first junior national tournament in Colorado Springs.
Was it like an open entry, or could you have to be good in your city or state and then you go, or how does that work?
I think back then it was open, because that was my first junior, so I think there was no cap in who would like to participate. So competed and took second. Oh man,
wow.
I cried.
Silver. And
Yes.
how old were you?
I was 9 years old.
And this junior is under...
So it was under 11.
Got
So
it.
you typically play like every 2 year, age group categories. So yeah, I took second. I lost to a gentleman who is from Washington, so Seattle, and man, that kind of gave me the fire to want to do better. Because I
Okay.
remember I was like crying my tears, and my dad's like, "Hey, look, I know it doesn't feel good, but if you want
Yeah.
to win, you got to put in more effort." So that kind of gave me
Was
the
Dad your
stepping stone.
coach as well, or was he?
When we first started, yes, I had multiple coaches, but my dad was my inspiration. He was the reason why I played. And of course, when you're a kid, you want to
Yeah.
be dad, right? But once
Yeah.
you start beating dad, then who's next?
Yeah, who's next?
But yeah,
huh?
dad was the reason why I picked up the
Who's
sport.
my next daddy? So then you did under 11, and what was your next sort of big triumph?
So the following year, I played against the same individual, and I beat him. So
All
that
right.
was a good, like, kind of confirmation. Hey, look, I'm on the right track. And at the age of 16, I was very blessed, fortunate to be invited to go train at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
At 16?
At the age of 16, yes.
Okay, because they saw you as a potential.
Yes, they saw
US
potential, and
And how many kids were invited for that?
I believe the program there was about 20 to 25 individuals.
But not everybody would get into Olympics, I'm guessing, right? It would be, you would whittle it down into the playing.
Yeah, so when you're invited, obviously you're considered as an Olympic hopeful. So where you take it from there, it really depends on
Yeah.
how well you progress. But I was considered as one of the what do you call it, like developmental squad. But nonetheless, I showed some potential because I had
But
previously.
at this age, had you competed in some, senior level tournaments yet, or?
Yes, I actually started playing some senior tournaments where I got to like the top 4, and they're like, "Wow, this kid's only 16." And then one of the it's called Olympic Festival back then. Before you played the Olympics, the U.S. will get in. We'll play an event called Olympic Festival where you'll have the East versus the North, South, and West. You break it up into 4 different like locations, and you represent. You play and compete against each other.
Is
So
this
that
only
was-
for badminton or other sports as well?
I think it was for all the sports. And obviously, they stopped after 1995. But then that's when they actually saw my potential. And they're like, hey, let's give Howard a try and let him give a shot. So it was an amazing experience because going there, I was grounded. It kind of gave me a real perspective. Hey, why are we there? Because all the athletes were, competing and training there. You had judo, swimming, taekwondo, weightlifting, you name it. Like that's where I met Carrie Walsh for volleyball. Initially, she was actually indoor, and then she, moved to outdoor, and then she was a legend, beach volleyball.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like
How many,
Stephen,
how many Olympic medals does she have? I don't know.
Countless.
I'm sure,
Yeah,
she's
amazing.
at least 2,
Yeah.
if not more.
Yes, I believe at least 2, and with different partners. Stephen Lopez, Taekwondo as well, 2 gold and 1 bronze, I think. And of course, save the best for last, Anton Ono, speed skater, the most decorated Winter Olympian. So he would be the Michael Phelps.
Were you intimidated with all these athletic abilities, and or was it like, hey, I'm better than these guys in general?
Yes and no. So in a sense where ignorance of bliss, right? So I was young, I was 16, I wanted to leave home. Like, when you're 16, you know everything in life that you need to know. Your
Yeah.
parents can't teach you anymore, right? You're
you're raring to go. You're raring to become
I'm
an
like, hey,
adult.
like I'm ready to go. So I packed my racket bags. I packed a bowling ball. and
Bye-bye,
packed-
Dad. I know you're my hero,
fishing
but like, I'm
rod.
going.
And I'm like, hey, look, I'm ready to go. But of course, once I was there and I saw the big picture, hey, look, they sacrificed everything for me. So that kind of, put things in perspective. And to see the athletes and the energy, wow, just kind of, you can't help but just gravitate and be a part of it. And what's the purpose? To represent the greatest country in the world at the Olympics every 4 years. So that's pretty amazing. So that's like, wow, that's something I want to be a part of.
And then which Olympics were they picking for in that summer camp?
Well,
that camp.
So when I joined, obviously it was 1995. So it was 5 years, for a period of 5 years to 2000.
So Sydney.
It was Sydney, yes, correct.
Yeah.
But of course, I actually started competing and traveling, but we were the alternate. We came in second place. So
For
we did
the
not
Sydney
go for
Olympics.
the Sydney Olympics, yes. So we just missed it. And by
And
then,
this was doubles or singles?
doubles mainly. But by then, you'd have to choose your event. Either you would do doubles, which is doubles or
Yeah.
mix, or singles. And I'm sure you know because you've played, you were a former player too.
Yeah, so it's tell people why can't people who win singles win doubles or vice versa? Is that too much of an ask? in this sport?
That's a great question. It's kind of like putting the same perspective or lens into tennis and say, hey, Roger Federer is amazing. Nadal is amazing singles players. But when they pair up together, it does not necessarily mean they'll win in doubles because the game, strategy and dynamics, styles, and just their rotation and
The whole, I mean,
it's
would you
totally
say
different
if,
game. It's
if
totally
there was a
different
Venn diagram of overlap of skills and temperament, would it be like 80-20 or like 20-80? Like, or like some, in terms of how much overlap is there from skill sets between a singles game and a doubles game?
I mean, footwork wise, they're similar enough where if you know footwork,
If you know how to
being like a
smash, you
singles
know how to
player-
smash, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But then, of course, like, you know, the approach, you have to shorten your swing, you have to be more aggressive, you have to rotate at the right time, you have to communicate. Versus if you play singles, you're
Yeah.
solely on your own. So
If
there's
you're
no
not a
one to
good
blame.
team player, probably doubles is not a good sport for you,
it's,
huh?
It's tricky because anytime you have two or more people, there's a lot of room for error or miscommunication.
Also personal
Yes,
issues
exactly.
between the...
Yes. And there's
members.
character and just a lot of different things you have to combat. But it does not necessarily mean
So
you're
going
great.
so going back to you were the second pick for Sydney. So you didn't go for Sydney.
No.
Okay, and then between 95 and Sydney, did you play other big events and tournaments and any notable wins in that era?
Well, during my qualification period from let's say 1996, 1997 to about 2000, I competed in the smaller tournaments, which is like the Guatemala Open, Peru Open, Irish, like some European tours. Of course, the Pan Am Games I played and I took bronze, my first Pan Am Games. That's one of the bigger ones. And
That was held in U.S.?
that was actually, I think, in Winnipeg, in Canada. And of course, U.S. adult nationals, you still have to actively showcase that you're still the best in the U.S., right?
But was U.S. the big badminton nation in the Americas at that time, or still is probably?
Well, great question. Obviously, no, badminton was still pretty, how should I say? Badminton is quite early in its stages where it just entered the Olympics in 92. In 88, it was a demonstration sport. In 92, they had doubles and singles, but no mix.
So that was the 92 was the first year badminton was introduced.
Well, actually, it was a full medal sport. Was considered as,
That's
legitimate
relatively
sport.
new in
Yes,
terms
exactly.
of the modern Olympics, 1896. So
Yes.
almost like 100 years
Yes.
passed.
Correct. And obviously, it's tricky. I believe there's like 20, I don't want to be, it might not be exact, 20, let's just say there's 27 sports, right? If you were to take one out and introduce a new one, then you'd have to replace one. So it's tricky. There's always those that, there's a battle.
Yeah.
For those who are not.
And the hosting nation can decide the sport. I heard
Oh, that's
that
a new thing.
in
Yes, correct.
Because I think for the next Olympics, there are a few sports like cricket, for example, that's being introduced in the LA Olympics that's coming up. And I think the last Paris also introduced few sports. So
That's awesome.
so then coming back to your so Pan Am win, and but this was senior or this was still junior?
It was actually seniors, yes. Yeah.
Great. And then what happened now that you did make the Sydney squad?
Yeah, so obviously I was still like just 21, right? I'm like, wow, what should I do? My life is over. Should I quit? That type
Yeah.
of deal. But
Because that's a juncture too, because you're a
Yes.
young adult trying to go
Yes.
to college, get a job.
Correct.
And then, this requires a lot of dedication. And who's paying you while you're doing all this?
I've been very blessed to have the financial support through the Olympic Committee, U.S. Olympic Committee. So that
Great.
was great. But of course, after they moved the Olympic Training Center to Lake Placid, I no longer joined because I wanted to move closer to home, which is in Southern California, in Orange County. So I joined it's called OCBC, the acronym, Orange County Badminton Club. A gentleman by the name of Don Chu. He's like, hey, look, I would like to make our facility the National Training Center. And then, of course, it was no-brainer because it was
Where is Lake
six-
Placid?
Lake Placid is in New York. Yeah, like pretty far out, and I wanted to stay closer to home, and yeah, so I essentially trained at OCBC for 12 years, and just very blessed to have qualified for my first Olympics in 2004.
This is
Athens,
the
Greece.
Athens.
Correct. Wow, you know your
Yeah. So
your
this was
material.
because that was
Amazing.
centenarian Olympics. I think.
Yes, it was. Yes.
So then,
Yes.
so then Athens Olympics. What happened?
So obviously, that was the first time I competed, and so to speak, what do you call it? Like I finished in the quarterfinals, so top
Okay.
8, made history. That was great. And
Was that the first U.S. Quarterfinals for badminton
I believe so. Correct.
for men's doubles?
Obviously, now we have like someone like Bei Win, right? She got pretty far too and pretty amazing, and she was a medal contender for both Olympics, for Japan and Paris just recently. But yes, I believe that was
in the-
history for the U.S. players at the Olympics to make
Got
to the
it.
quarterfinals.
For the quarterfinals. That's a pretty impressive feat. This was for men's doubles.
Yes.
Got it. And then, so did you play World Championships in between that, or was it after Athens Olympics?
So another juncture, right? Obviously, after 2004, hey, what should I do? Another contemplation. I felt like there's momentum. I feel like there's some promising light at the end of the tunnel. So essentially, that's when I asked, after 2004 Olympics, I asked Tony Gunawan, hey, because he was our coach slash sparring partner slash big brother on the court. And long story short, for those who don't know Tony Gunawan, he is the Michael Jordan in Indonesia. Like
Okay.
essentially, he won everything you can imagine. He won the Olympics representing Indonesia.
Which Olympics did he win?
He won
2000?
Sydney. Yes.
Sydney.
Yes. He
Doubles.
took gold in doubles. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And of course, after I think 2001 or 2002, he retired. So he's like, hey, I want to move to the U.S. And he was still relatively young. He was like 26, 27 when he retired. So then 2005 came around. I'm like, hey, look. Actually, no, at the end of 2004, I'm like, hey, Tony, would you like to compete and play and partner together at least until 2005? Because World Championships, we found out it's going to be in the U.S. It's literally going to be next door, right next to Anaheim. Oh, it's in Anaheim. Sorry, right next door to the city of Orange, where we trained. So he's like, yeah, let's give it a go. We did fairly well the first several tournaments. We won the U.S. Open and Dutch Open back to back. Obviously, we were not we were not like the top seeds. We were seeded number 13 at the World Championships. But
Unlucky number.
yes.
But not for
If
long.
you're superstitious, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I told Tony, hey, look, this will be my last tournament. Because, man, it's dragging. It's taking me almost 9 years already to finish college. That's like one lifelong goal I would like to achieve. I just want to finish college.
And where were you going to college?
So same deal. Like I've moved around. I started at University of Colorado Springs in 2001. And then I finished off at Cal State University, California. So that was in Fullerton. So I told Tony, hey, look, this is the last tournament. So, of course, to be honest, we're not planning on winning the tournament. Our goal was to get to quarterfinals, top 8, right? And of course, momentum.
That's a respectable finish as well.
Yeah, top 8,
World
yes, and make
Badminton.
record, yes. And we knew, because we weren't winning the big tournaments, but yeah, we were getting to the quarterfinals, top 8. So we're like, okay, this is where we're at. And of course, give credit to my coaches who kind of double time and triple time to help me, and sports psychologist Mike Gervais. Just without them, I wouldn't, have won that title. So essentially, every day was magic. I started, hey, look.
And how many games did you play in that tournament?
I believe we started at round 128. So there's like 5 rounds. 128,
Okay.
64, 32 quarters, semifinals. Yeah.
5
So
rounds
you had to win 5 rounds.
till quarter.
So let me do my
Yeah,
math.
yeah, 120.
68, 32, 16 quarter, semi. Oh, so would that be 6? That'd be 6 matches, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah,
it. And
you
you
have to
didn't
win.
get any buy on these
No
rounds?
buys. Yes. So yeah, it was amazing. So our first test was literally, not to discount like the earlier rounds, but they were not as strong. So
Yeah.
when we get to the round of 16s, played against Malaysia, and that was our first test, and we were able to pull it off in 2 games, and then quarterfinals against Denmark, number 1 seed, and that was tricky too. But yeah, momentum was on our side. We won in 2, and then semis we played against Indonesia.
And then Denmark, you did 3-set or
I was a 2. Well, so
direct?
to be exact, when I won the World Championships, it was the old scoring system, which
tw-
was
the-
you have to
the
serve
15.
to score. Yes, 15
Yes,
points.
I remember. I grew up in
it was
that.
brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, technically you're almost playing for 30 points, not
Yes.
21.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you can relate to, because for those who started
know
with
that-
rally scoring, it was a beast. Like literally in singles, they would just run you even though they lose the first game. They know physical is on their
Physically,
side.
whoever
yeah.
has the physical, stamina won.
Crazy.
Back in the
So
day.
you could be playing for 20 minutes and the score is 5-4. You're like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
And it's still the first game.
And I remember playing back in the day when people, there were like amazing points, and the score was like 3-3
it was not
after like.
reflective. Exactly. It was not, that's why it was unfortunate. But I believe volleyball took the same direction.
Yeah.
They started with like serve
Same
to score
thing, yeah.
and then rally scoring
Table
afterwards.
tennis too.
Oh, was it?
Same concept. Then they changed the rules because it made it more entertaining.
Yes.
People wanted to see points on the board. Huh?
And more rewards, right? If you want to go for it, I want to
Yeah.
see people get rewarded. You know,
Yeah.
so. Yes.
And then Denmark for quarters, and then who did you hit on semis?
Indonesia. I believe they're like the number 3 or
Were there
number 4
people
seed.
Tony played with before?
Yes, they
Or
were
they-
actually his younger colleagues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they knew Tony and his
Yes.
tricks, but they didn't know you.
Definitely not. So, which I'll get back to later on, and which I will explain respect is earned. And I have a story to share with
Okay.
everybody else.
And
But they did not know me, yes.
They did not know you. They were thinking,
Just pick
who
on the
is
pick
this
on the weak
guy
guy,
with
yes.
Tony? Who is this guy?
Exactly.
Just
Yes.
hit Howard.
Yes.
And you'll be okay. That's
Correct.
an entire strategy for the game, probably.
Or at least they started doing
Yeah.
that. So it was actually a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Uh-huh.
The curse was they were picking on me
Yeah.
because I was a weaker link for sure.
Yeah.
But the blessing was I knew they were picking on me. So get ready for it. What
Yeah.
are you going to do, right? It's not what happens to you. It's what you do and how you counter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that kind of, luckily the whole week was, it worked out. So
And did you guys win a direct set on this, or it go the third game?
we started getting tired at the very end. First game we won. Second game was really close. It was 13. So, but we managed to win in 2 as well.
2. Okay.
2 games.
So then you're semi-final winner. Now you're getting into finals. Who are you meeting there?
So it was against another Indonesian pair, which was Tony's former doubles partner that he won the Olympics with. So it was playing against his brother.
That 2 Olympic champions on the.
Well, essentially, yeah, they all of them were like amazing. Like even Chandra's partner,
Yeah.
Sigit, he was like a legend. He was known to be like the smoothest player on the court, had the most like technique and tricks and essentially I believe Tony walked up to Chandra like the day before. Hey, look, tomorrow I'm gonna play against you. Give me all you got. Don't hold back.
Yeah.
Because I will not hold back. Because he knew Tony is the type. Hey, look, I'm not gonna step down a challenge. I know the odds are against us. I'm partnering and I'm trying to carry this underdog guy along with me.
Yeah.
But he knew. Hey, look, it's time to get serious. And there's no brotherhood or whatever.
But
on
we
the
leave
court.
it at the edge of the
Exactly.
court. And
Once
that's
we're
a
done,
spirit. That's a sportsman spirit.
Yes,
spirit.
exactly.
And we shake hands afterwards,
yes,
right?
yeah, we're
That's the
civilized. On the
spirit.
court, there are no friends. Yes.
Yeah. Was that a direct win as well? Direct sets or?
The first game we won, we managed. The second game, they beat us. So it was pretty like handily too. Like I think they beat us like 10. It was like 10 and 11. So it was 50-50. And the third game, we were actually down 11-9. So I'm like, wow.
Okay.
It's nearing the end. But then I distinctly remember, hey, look, in the video too, if you go through the video, and I apologize because back then there's no HD.
Yeah.
So the quality is not really
No,
good.
we'll pull it up and.
But essentially, I gave myself a scream after one rally. I'm like, hey, this is it. And actually, I was actually crying internally, and there's some tears outside because I knew, hey, this is
not
my
sweat,
one
it's
chance.
It's tears.
Yes, it was tears of like urgency.
Yeah.
It was tears of, hey, look, this is it. You don't have another chance. And from then on, wow, we won 5 points in a row to like 14-9.
Yeah, that's a
Caught back up.
psychological advantage if you win 5 points in a row.
Yeah, exactly, and momentum.
Yeah.
And the last point was magical at the same time because Tony was known to be the front player to set up. He is known to be very skillful. Nobody could challenge him, or at least
So your strategy was initially he on the net and
yes.
Okay.
Everybody knew like offense was our game because defense, my skills are limited. It was okay, it was enough, but when we attack, it was pretty lethal and deadly. And he was setting up. I was being brave and no looking back. We just kept at it. And what made it amazing was he set up and then I finished on the last smash.
Okay. So you had the final say.
Yes. Well, he gave me the opportunity
Okay.
to end the rally, and when it was over, I still
That's a
couldn't
good
believe it.
feeling, hitting the final
Yes.
smash
Yes.
and then throwing the racket up in the air or something.
Yes.
And then getting down on the floor.
It was a relief for sure.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, whoa, what just hit me? Like,
Yeah.
like
What did you
two
do?
brick
I'm
walls
be a world
just hit you. You're like,
champions.
wow, yeah, exactly. I still
Yeah.
didn't believe it, but
like pinch yourself.
yeah, exactly.
You guys played in California. Did that home court advantage help? Did you play in that particular court before?
No, we have not participated in that location. So it used to be called the Mighty Ducks, and now it became like the Honda Center. So no, we did not have like extra time or like
Yeah.
1 week of extra practice prior. It was literally, hey, look, these are the times that are open to everybody.
Yeah.
You come in during your allocated space, and it was literally right next door to
Right.
where we live. So yeah,
So now you're world badminton champion.
former, yes.
I mean, you were at that time going back on 2005. You're a world badminton champion. What do you get when you become a world badminton champion?
Like I mentioned, we were shooting for top 8.
Yeah.
Right. And we've gone farther and farther. Obviously, like I've mentioned, the Olympic Committee was by our side, supported us. Very blessed because nowadays individuals and players, they have to self-fund. So it's really, it's brutal. It's not easy. Yes, you see someone like a Baywin who has potential, but a lot of times she's struggling to find her own sponsorship. So, and I get how the Olympic Committee is structuring their support. It's chicken or the egg, right? Look, you're competing against swimmers who they're all world champions and like they've won multiple gold medals.
That's the
So
problem with winning too many
yeah,
medals, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're in a country
Yeah.
where everybody's a winner.
Yeah, where Stanford wins
Yeah.
more than probably
Exactly.
all the other nations, barring few, huh?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can you put on the table? And at the end of the day, they have to report back to their and just comparing to other countries, like Denmark, China, they're all government sponsored, right? In the U.S., they're all privately.
Yeah. Would you
sponsored.
think somebody like a Bayvin, if she went to another country, she would do better?
Well, I would say her support
Support
would have been
support and mental stress and all of that.
So there's a trade-off, right? So I feel like I am a late bloomer. Obviously, without Tony, I would not have won. Number one, without the support of like the community. But then at the same time, I had the opportunity to be the best in the U.S. But I kept going because the competition was less.
Yeah.
And that means when you're training and
Yeah,
stress
if you
would
were
be
training
less.
in Indonesia or China, that would be a different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, our sparring, we're limited to sparring, right? So if you compete and you always sparred against the top 5 in the world, your mentality is, hey, I'm beating the number 5. I earn my right to be top 5. Or, hey, that's how you build confidence. So when you're in the U.S., you don't compete and spar against the best. So how do we do it? We have to invite people. We have to go out and compete in international tournaments. So there's trade-offs. Yes, it's less stress, but then there's more against you as well. Like you will not spar against the good players that you need to raise your level.
Yeah, I heard that Victor, who's a current Olympic champion, he moved to Dubai and he invites people to spar with
Yes,
him.
correct.
Because I'm guessing that's a good strategy, probably to, but not everybody can do that.
Yes, correct.
It takes money and sponsorship and. Okay, so you're a world champion now, but what did you get?
Okay,
like a trophy?
So we got a
Prize
medal.
money?
We got a
Okay,
medal, obviously.
medal, right.
And like I mentioned, if Baywinner or myself were to win
We'll-
the gold
we'll-
medal
you have
representing a
we'll
different
pick up-
country.
we'll bring up the photo of your medal.
Yeah, if we were to do that, not that I want to, I would not trade it for a million years, like for anything. I'd still want to represent the U.S. If you for instance, Tony, he won the gold medal. He was getting plots of lands and houses and prize money from the government. Probably had like lifelong stipend as well for the rest of his life.
And that happened in most countries where the Olympic medals are scarce
Yes.
or world medals are scarce.
Correct.
You win something. I heard in Italy, if you're a gold medalist, the government is giving them $1 million or something.
Exactly, like the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
They've never really won one. I would say couple million would not be far fetched.
Yeah,
Like easy.
and they're like heroes. Like
Yes.
they're not even like. I mean, you're a world badminton champion, but you're definitely not Tony in Indonesia.
Yes,
right.
yes,
Like I mean, but we should be. So
Well, no, I mean, he is definitely where he's at, but more importantly, I feel like the respect is different because it was the sport of badminton in the U.S. has never been taken seriously. It's always been the backyard image.
Yeah,
Hey,
people
look,
play at
where's-
barbecues.
Yeah, where's my
Yeah.
beer and then my barbecue cookout, right?
Yeah.
So if they know what competitive badminton is, which we're slowly changing compared to when I first started. Look, it's crazy. Just the Bay Area itself, there's 20 plus privately owned badminton clubs. Back then, I had to move to Colorado
Yeah.
to train full time, so then I can be a part of the competitive squad.
And even then, like I'm no world badminton champion. I've won a national championship, school national championship in India when I was young, and I tell people about that sometimes when I meet here in San Francisco. They're like, oh. The sport we play at barbecues, like that kind of sport,
That's in the
like
Olympics, right? They're surprised, right?
You
Yeah.
play that, like we play it professionally.
Yes.
So that the profile of the sport. I mean, we will talk about it. So I think you talked about Tony. So Tony has won World Badminton Championships representing Indonesia,
Yes, he
and he has represented US and won a World Badminton Championship,
correct. Yes.
and he has won an Olympic medal representing Indonesia.
Yes.
I don't think he won an Olympic medal for US
No,
yet.
no.
Okay, but that's impressive, right?
Yes.
Like winning for two nations. Is he
Yes.
the only one who has done that in badminton?
That's why he's really dynamic in that way. He can literally partner anybody and almost like make them a champion, right? He won the gold medal partnering Indonesian partner.
That was Chandra Vijay, I believe,
Yes,
right?
and then he won his 2001 World Championships with Halim Herianto, representing Indonesia. And then when he retired in 2002, then he moved to the U.S. He was just sparring,
Yeah.
helping out, going to college, DeVry, and then
Did he come to US because he got sponsored as a coach here?
I think partially, like I mentioned, Mr. Don Chu had helped him with his visa,
Yeah.
and he wanted to achieve, and graduate in college.
And I know personally, like including my brother, people for the audience, a lot of sports people come to US because US is still a very favorable destination for either retired or like people who want to move to a different place on they call it a sport visa, like a performer
yes.
visa, or like a
Yeah, like 01, it's like for special
O1,
talent.
and then
or something
sometimes
like that,
there
right?
is EB1 for so yeah, it's definitely a good destination for people to come. So other than the World Badminton Championship, I'm sure that's your crowning glory.
Yes.
Any other key badminton wins that you can, you fondly remember?
I mean, obviously, like participating in 3 Olympics would be something that I'm super proud of and
Yeah.
very honored and blessed to be a part of, because the opening ceremony, I never miss it, even though I have to play the next day because it's magical.
Yeah.
And the difference between the Olympics and like something compared to like the All Englands, which is considered as the what do you call it? The Wimbledon
it's
of
the
tennis.
Wimbledon of tennis, yeah.
So the difference is every 4 years you represent Team USA. So you're not really, yes, you're still the badminton team, but then hey, where's Team USA? Where's Team Spain? So that kind of feels like, hey, look, we're in it together.
Yeah.
So you don't feel like alone, because not a lot of people play and participate. So when we travel, we always have a small team versus like you go to Denmark and China, and then they have like 30, 40 people on the team. And they're just like, the energy is there, and then we only have like 4. There's nothing wrong with 4, but the sport is changing. Our athletes are improving. So it's great to see us progress.
So you did Athens, Sydney, Athens, and Beijing.
Yes, that was my
Which was
last
your
one.
favorite?
Every particular Olympics has its like significance. Like you've mentioned, 2004 was the centennial, 100-year celebration. 2008 was Beijing, obviously, because what was amazing was, I think it was Li Ning was his name, the gymnast that ran around the stadium, suspended in air. But it was super hot, I remember. 2012 was my last one, of course. That was magical too because I feel like-
2012, is it London?
yes, it was in London, yeah. England. And I knew that was my last year. So when you're young, you're like, hey, look, I can compete forever. But every year, every 4 years, I always try to, implement things and change. I'm like, hey, look, let's try this. So I knew that was my last Olympics, and I enjoy like the most out of it. Hey, enjoy the process because it's not necessarily the results. Yes, I would like to bring home a hardware. That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Where's your hardware?
Where's your
But
hardware?
unfortunately, that's the 1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do it, and unfortunately, I was not able to do it. Highest
Well,
finish
hey.
was 5th place, but
How many people can say they represented their nation for 3 Olympics? I think that's a crowning glory in itself. What is a loss? A lot of people all talk about wins.
Yes.
That is etched in your memory. That was quite painful in your playing career.
I believe other than the first tournament that I took second, which
Yeah.
was my junior years, right?
Yeah, you were heartbroken
Yeah.
because you were 9.
Exactly, because I was like, wow, you know what? There's someone that can actually beat me, but not in a cocky way, but just like, wow, this is the true reality, and we're only in the U.S. Can you imagine competing against like the world? And also, so when I competed in my first World Junior tournament in Denmark in 1997, because I was the best in Pan Ams. So back then, the U.S., Canada, Guatemala, those are the 3 powerhouses, right, around the Pan American region. So I was like, wow, let me give it a shot. The world out there is a different beast.
Yeah.
Just because you're number 1 in the Pan Am area doesn't mean anything. Or at least imagine if you're number 1 in Spain in basketball, but then you still have to compete against.
the
Yes,
NBA.
you're the best in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Or top 3 in Lithuania and whatnot. But then the U.S. they're still known
Yep,
to
yeah.
win. Like you compete against China.
And they're like, you're cute.
Yeah,
but-
exactly. They're like, yeah, hey, good try, but hey, nice game,
yeah.
So then that kind of gave me more drive to, hey, look, yes, now I've reached the World Juniors. I believe I got to the round of 32s, which is pretty good too. But then that gave me more drive. Hey, look, just because I'm not where I'm at, you're not competing against. Yes, you're competing against individuals to win the match, but you go at your own pace, right? And when you're ready, you're ready. So the blessing thing is, hey, look, I have more time because I don't have 4 other people I have to compete against to be number 1. But then at the same time, there's a lot of hurdles. So that gave me the second awakening. Hey, look, just because you're number 1, there's a lot of work to be done. So.
Yeah. So my last question on this segment, but your playing career, what are everybody has, I call it strategies you use as a player, and these are not, you dribble after you smash kind of strategies, but these are mental strategies. What were your strategies generally as a player? I was a both singles and doubles player, but when I played doubles, it was. I would never let my partner, if he or she missed a defense or dribble, dwell on it. I would always cheer them up because you don't want people going down the rabbit hole of.
Yep.
Some people always like to have a banana before their game because it became a superstition for them. But did you have any particular strategies or not, like when you played?
I always made sure that I warm up well because I'm a type of player, I am very physical. So my legs are slow. My reaction is slow because I'm not as skillful, right? But I know my strengths. I have power, I have speed. So if my momentum, my rhythm is not there, then I could be starting really slow. So
And by then you're like down by 6-7 points.
Exactly, and now the new scoring system, rally scoring system, if you're down like 11-4, 11-6, it's hard to catch up.
Hard to catch up.
So essentially, I made sure that I have like a light sweat. I'm always ready, and of course, like you've mentioned, also like the encouragement. Hey, look, worked with my sports psychologist. Hey, look, it's the bottle half empty or half full. So let's move on quickly because it's either you win the rally or you win the next one, or your opponent wins. So it's okay. It's no big deal, right? But you have to keep positive. So these are, I believe, my strengths. And when I don't have a good day, it's okay. I tell myself to simplify things. It's okay. it's not working, probably try to think less. When it's not working, you want to, just do more simple things so then you can get back into the rhythm, So, I mean, these are things that helped me as an athlete.
And
But I knew I had to be aggressive because I'm not the type of player where I'm very skillful. I play more defense. No, I have to be aggressive. I have to bring the fight to them, so to speak.
Got it. Well, on that note, we'll end the first segment on Howard the player. And thank you. We'll come back.
Awesome.
Welcome back to the conversation with Howard Bach today. Howard, we talked about your life as a player, and now you're a coach. Tell us how was that a natural next step for your career?
So obviously, like I mentioned previously, competed 3 Olympics after my last one, London. So another juncture in life where, hey, look, what should I do after my career is over? And of course, naturally, everything gravitates towards, hey, let's try to stay closer to home, which is San Francisco. So I'm like, hey, look, let's move back closer to family, to parents. And at that point, Ben and Lan from Synergy Badminton, they extended their welcome. Hey, would you like to be a part of the Synergy family, Synergy Badminton Academy? And I was like, yes, definitely, because I'll be there, and I would love to make an impact around the Bay Area. And so that's how I joined Synergy Badminton Academy. But I felt like it was a natural fit because even when I was competing, we were still coaching part-time for the juniors and some of the adult players at the Orange County Badminton Club. And I still have a passion. I feel like there's a lot I can still, share. And now, moving forward, the past 12 years has been amazing.
Yeah.
Blink of an eye, I've been with Synergy for 12 years. And it's a lot of good memories.
So tell us more about Synergy and what do you guys do and where all you guys have locations and all of that.
Yeah, so Synergy Badminton Academy obviously is one of the premier badminton clubs around the Bay Area. There's roughly, I'd say probably more than 20 plus clubs, privately owned badminton clubs around the Bay Area itself. And when I first joined Synergy, it was actually at Menlo Park. And back then it was called Facebook. Right now it's called Meta. And literally they're 1 block away. So it's a smaller location with 8 courts. And of course, fast forward 2020, we expanded to our second location in Fremont, and we became the biggest in the U.S. with 27 courts. And
did people come to play during COVID?
It was tricky. Obviously, not
social
during the
distancing.
time.
How
Yes.
do you play doubles with social distancing?
It was tricky. You know how like there are stages when it was like red and
Yeah.
orange, and you can and you cannot. Obviously, we had to be creative, and we had to pretty much partition or like skip 1 court so then they're not too close to each other. But yeah, it was tough, right? Obviously for everybody. But yeah, we made it work. And now we just recently acquired our 3rd location, so we're moving along. But Synergy Badminton Academy offers multiple programs and options for adult players over 18, junior players, so literally from 3 years old, as early as that, to like 18. We have corporate events. You can reserve courts.
My daughter is almost 4. You think it's too early for her?
I think all individuals are different. Let them, as a parent myself, my son is 13, my daughter is 11, let them try everything. They will naturally gravitate. You'll see the smile on their face, right? My son does swimming, he does tennis. He's not into badminton, right? But he knows I love, and my daughter picked it up. So she's into that. She trains full time. But let them do everything, right? They'll kind of naturally gravitate towards something, and then you'll know. And then as a parent, we can only support.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mentioned that you also do clinics.
Yes.
And tell us more about what kind of clinics happen.
Yes. So obviously, grassroots has always been like very close to my heart because that's how I picked up the sport at local YMCA. hey, when I was a kid, I would love to have like another Howard or like a Jason or another player that, love what they did and introduce the sport to me. That'd be great. So that's why I kind of made it my mission to give back or to pay forward. So every year annually, I would give out free high school badminton clinics throughout and around the Bay Area, and not limited to that. I've gone as far as like Davis, or like Napa
And
Valley.
do they reach out to you, or you reach out to these
Obviously,
folks through Synergy, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, great question. Obviously, social media, but when we first started, it was word of mouth, right? One recommendation to another, and nowadays they can reach out to me through my social media. But yeah, I can only do so much. But I always love to participate and visit like new high schools, because just to know that the program's growing, and that's my way of giving back. Yes.
As a coach, are the strategies and techniques different from being a player? And what are some things you think about while you're a coach?
I think the approach definitely is different, because when you're a player, when you're on the court, you can't really see yourself play, or you're not as flexible when you change, because like during a game, if you're winning or losing, because you might kind of get, your ego might get in the way, and your adaptation is not as quick. But when you're coaching someone, you see the full big picture. Hey, is your player nervous? Is your player too excited? Too much adrenaline, too stiff, or are they too passive and relaxed? Are they playing the right strategy? You can actually actively communicate literally every point. But as a player, if there's no coach, and unfortunately that's one of the drawbacks to competing in the U.S. circuit. Like obviously we cannot afford a coach. So most of the time we teach ourselves through videos after we compete, or that's why Tony Gunawan is an indispensable individual, because he can show you on the court how it's done, and he can coach you along the way. He's seen it all. He could be the brother to show you on the court how it's done, or he can kind of tell you his experience. But
so
to answer your question,
you're stepping out and looking at how the players are playing. So a good player doesn't make you a good coach, or does it?
Definitely not.
Vice versa? I mean, are there good coaches who are probably not good players?
Vice versa, because there's so much more dynamics to being a coach. You need to know how to, I wouldn't say manage, that's the incorrect word, but you would have to be flexible enough to identify like what approaches are most efficient and effective when you're communicating. You have to be a great communicator. You need to know how to address and explain. Because when you're a player, hey, look, if it works or not, it's all on you, right? You don't have to worry about like, hey, look, there's a doubles pair right now. One of them has a strong personality. The other person, will not listen also. So that's why I give a lot of credit to like basketball coaches, right? How do you get
LeBron and Steph and
together?
Kevin Durant to play on the same team
or
still
who's
not
going to be the secondary player? Exactly. You have to kind of like play roles, right?
Yeah, you can't have everybody take an alpha role on this side.
Yes, it's tricky.
And that's the rule of sport.
And if you're managing a team event, you're going to have to make those tough decisions.
Yeah, who's going to play the first singles? Who's going to play the next
you're
one?
You're going to have to justify this is why, and you have to stick.
And some star players get sat on the bench sometimes.
Yes.
Huh?
And if that's what it takes, then you have to make those calls. Yeah.
So who make the best kind of disciples or players for a coach like you? Is that a particular persona or particular kind of player / disciple?
You'd be surprised. Like I see very successful coaches nowadays, whereas I used to compete against them. And most of the time we would win, but they are great coaches because they understand what it takes from a different perspective or angle on how to motivate or explain or guide their players towards success. So it is not a key ingredient where it's necessary. You don't have to be a great player.
But is that a particular kind of player you would be willing to invest more of your time? Because sometimes it's not just about the coach. It's about what kind of player you get, right?
Yes.
What makes an ideal player in your mind?
I think ultimately there's key ingredients and factors that'll help. Like if I see a group of talent, obviously they need to be able to be flexible, like I've mentioned. If you're stubborn, right?
What if you're a talented jerk? The brilliant jerk in
Well, I mean,
the
they're
tech
confident. They're
valley,
confident. Yes.
but they're like horrible to coach. They are. They won't listen to you. They won't
Yeah,
come to
so-
practice, but they're good.
True, but then you have to identify as a coach that talented individual that's not listening. Maybe it's okay for them to play singles because they're not communicating and putting their partners down, right? Versus you have someone who's very passive but very talented, but then you need a leader. Then maybe that individual could be the playmaker, right? Or whatever it is, the back player. So then you as a coach need to identify. But I would love to have players who are motivated. I don't need to push them, and I feel like they should win. They would like to win more than I want them to win. That's a start. Because I'd rather work with someone who's less talented, but they're driven, they're motivated, they're always there. Because there's more room to grow for growth versus someone who's very talented, but who always shows up half the time, always complain they're injured and this and that. Yes, they're talented, but obviously, look at Michael Jordan. He's successful because nobody knows he does suicides after training is over, right? Kobe Bryant shows up at 3 a.m. and he does his shooting before everybody
else
practice,
comes
but
in.
nobody knows about that, right? So you still need hard work at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
there's an interesting quote that I like. Let me show you the world which is littered with talent. That's talent is aplenty, and give me somebody with an average talent and amazing motivation. Anyway, trump somebody who has amazing talent and mediocre motivation.
I would say I was probably one of those living proof to what you're talking about, because I've always identified myself. Don't get me wrong, I have my own natural gifted talent too as well. But I always felt like, hey, look, I have to work harder. But I will show up. If you tell me practice is at 6 o'clock and I need to drive there an hour and 15 minutes away, I live in LA. I know traffic. I would wake up at 4:15 and eat my egg whites and eat my whatever and prepare and make sure I show up 15 minutes early, because I'm the type, I always stretch to make sure, and I stretch after. So I'll do whatever it takes for you to help me improve.
Yeah.
And no and buts or
That's
and
true.
whatever.
Even when I grew up, I had, they call it a knock knee. I don't know what they call it here. Because if you keep your toes together, if you're between your knees touch each other, that means it's a knock knee. So in a lot of militaries, they don't take people with knock knee because it's apparently a disadvantage
got it.
for sports.
Okay.
And so for a long time, I thought that, I wouldn't do anything. But then similar to you, like working hard and training for 8 hours a day and, stuff like that got me better than most other people with talent.
Yeah, because you're willing to go above and beyond.
Yeah, because you have a flaw, you're willing to work harder for the flaw.
Yes, exactly.
Compensate for it, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's interesting, like I was reading this book about what people, what are the hiring criteria for apparently CIA, is that they want people who have traumas and flaws, because they can
have more desire.
tune them
Okay.
to like work harder to
okay.
please and to like actually do
That's
better.
a psychological approach to.
And so as a coach, sometimes I've also talked to some coaches who said, we actually want somebody who has a little bit of inferiority complex, because
they
you
know.
coach them to do better.
Yep.
So I thought that was a very fascinating perspective as a coach. Well, this is my last question on this segment about coaches. Who make the worst players for a coach? Well, for the viewers, don't be that kind of a player. So whatever Howard is going to say, yeah?
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned, I literally just had this conversation this past weekend because I was in Dallas, right, for a senior tournament. And I was able to meet with Coach Abhishek Alawat. And for those who don't know who he is, obviously he was the head coach for the para badminton Olympians, which made history. Silver medal at the Paris,
Olympics,
Paralympics, and it was Casey Simon and Miles. I apologize the last name. Krajewski, yeah. But amazing. So essentially, he had mentioned to me, "Hey, look, we're going in there. Nobody expected them to win. Of course, they're underdogs." And the Indian coach, obviously, they have like by far the greatest athletes, like overall. Like imagine like the USA basketball, right? Or like Team China for badminton. Like it's almost like wow, the aura is different, and everybody knows they're great because they've statistically proven that they've won the most medals. And of course, the coach was pretty much undercutting him. And hey, look, Abhishek, if you need help, I'm here to help you. But this is who I am. I am, you know, my country, the president knows who I am. Bow down to greatness, you know. So I'm like, wow. I don't care how great you are. Tony is a prime example. He is the Michael Jordan, right, from Indonesia, and he treats me like his brother. That's who I respect the most. Like you can be the best, the highest platform, pinnacle, whatever in your life, but hey, everybody's human, and you can always learn as a coach and as a player. So just because you win now doesn't mean 4 years later you're going to be the best. So always actively improve and be the better version of yourself, right?
If you're a star player or a star coach, it gets into your head.
I mean, I get it. I get it.
Superstar in your country, or you know.
I get it, right? UFC players, before they fight, they have to convince themselves, hey, look, this is it. I'm going to beat him. Yeah. That's the only way, right? You have to be the beast on the court, or in the ring.
Well, there is the Kobe Bryant way, or there's the Noah Lyles way. Which way do you go? Which is a better, you know, I mean, both, I mean, sure. But I think personally, as an audience, we like the underdog story. We don't like somebody coming in on our face saying they're so great. We want to tell them they're great. We don't want them to tell us they're great.
I mean, that's why ultimately I think you should let performance speak for itself. As much as you hate or, you know, vouch against or whatever, or support a certain individual or team, the results will kind of reflect, right? And I'll give you a perfect story too. So obviously I'm a nobody, right? When I first partnered Tony. So we would go on tournaments, to tournaments in Asia, Europe. And when they see Tony, wow, their eyes glow up. Wow, hey, you're back.
Yeah.
I thought you retired.
Yeah.
Shake hands, say hi, walk right by me. I would, you know, try to smile, put my hand out. They wouldn't even shake my hands. They're like, who's this guy? Is he your water boy?
Yeah.
And then finally, of course, Tony's being nice. Hey, this is Howard. I'm partnering him. So I'm trying to bring his level up. And then they would just say hi to me. Hey, how are you? And that's it. And not a word for like the next 2 hours because they're busy talking to Tony.
Yeah.
But that was great too at the same time. Yes, it happened to me. That sucked. But it kind of gave me the drive again, like I've mentioned, right, previously. Hey, look, why are they treating me this way? Because respect is earned, right? It's not given. How do you earn your respect? You have to start beating them. And that's what I did. I started beating the Danish pair. I started beating the Malaysian individual that played against me. Finally, they're, hey, Howard, how are you? When are you guys leaving? So you have to earn it.
Yeah.
No one's going to give it to you unless it's a setup.
Success begets success. So it's
Exactly.
It's imperative.
But it kind of gave me the motivation because whatever it takes to help you fuel your fire, you know. Yeah. But that gave me the challenge. Hey, look, you know what? I'm going to beat you one day. Well, and if I don't, I'm going to try everything I can. So.
Well, the trial is in our hands. The outcome is not.
Yes. And that's all we can do, what we can control, right? So.
Well, on that note, we'll conclude the second segment. We'll be back after a break. Welcome to the third segment of our conversation with Howard Bach. So Howard, you have been a world champion from USA, badminton. And probably the only medal that USA has won for badminton in world gold medal in World Badminton Championships, I believe. How is badminton in the USA?
Like,
okay, I'm gonna compare it to NBA. And badminton. Like, okay, where are we?
Okay, if you were to compare badminton with NBA, obviously nobody would know badminton exists, or at least the competitive side of badminton in the U.S., because most Americans think it's a backyard sport. Most Americans think it's something you play during PE or when they're hungry and they're grabbing their beer in the backyard. So obviously in 1992 is when it was first considered as a full medal sport, participation sports. So yeah, there's a lot we need to cover, and compared to like the powerhouses in Europe, Asia, we have a long ways to go, but we are, there's a lot of momentum going on, which I will explain in our junior circuit as
Yeah.
well as our para badminton.
Yeah, which what is that? World Junior Silver in 2023, and then what? 2024 World Junior. Did they? I know they were at quarters. Did they proceed? They won something there. World
Yes.
quarters.
Yes.
Paralympics. 2024 Paralympics silver, and then 2028 LA Olympics.
Yes.
So you think is it time to be more hopeful about badminton in the US, or you think other countries are like really surging forward on this?
Well, I mean, let's take a quick step back just to kind of understand the landscape. When I first started, like I mentioned, I had to move to Colorado to train full time. Nowadays, there is just around the Bay Area, there's 20 plus badminton clubs, and it's growing around throughout the whole entire U.S. Go to Texas, there's a lot of clubs now. Amazing. Washington, New Jersey, East Coast. So it's growing throughout the whole entire U.S. That's great. Obviously, momentum started a while back, but our first notable win also started last year, right? The World Juniors, we took silver by Allison Lee and Francesca Corbett from the Bay Area. And now this year, 2024 World Juniors team event, I believe we took 7th. We knocked out or edged out Thailand as well. So there's a lot of momentum, but also Paris Olympics, para badminton, you have Miles and Casey winning silver, and that's one of a kind. So, and like you mentioned also, Rahul, 2028 LA Olympics is just around the corner. So there's a lot we still need to do, but at the same time, we're not waiting. As a club owner in the Bay Area, Synergy Badminton Academy, Allison and Francesca trains there. We're welcoming everybody as well.
So as a young athlete who's doing badminton, do you get support if you're good, other than probably from your parents funding your lifestyle?
Yes, unfortunately, like I've mentioned, the Olympic Committee supports those who have a chance of winning the Olympics. So if you're not a medal contender,
And how
it's
do they
like-
decide? Is
Good
it
question.
like world seedings?
I think it's based on world seedings. Yes. So maybe like a big win for sure. I think she would qualify. But so it's like chicken or the egg,
Yeah,
right?
chicken and egg problem.
It's
like,
tricky.
I want to be better, but I don't have the money to be better.
Yes. So you invest now or later. So that's why I'm still a firm believer of the grassroots. Hey, look, that'll make a difference. Because the little things make the big difference on the court. You don't really fix the big things. You tweak it, and then you'll see the big results. So I still firmly believe, hey, look, we need to start our grassroots. We need to develop our grassroots players, whether it's recreational. You need more of those, we need more Miles and Casey.
Because then now people know about badminton through that
Yes.
win that happened. So
Exactly.
some wins are important, I think.
Yes. And even just to be on the map, like you have Snoop Dogg commentating on one of the rallies, right?
Yeah.
One of our players. So, I mean, yes, it does not take a big name, but when there's momentum, we need to work together,
But what about private funding? Because I know in some countries there are private foundations and individuals who fund certain sport for passion or philanthropic causes. I mean, do you think that kind of stuff exists in badminton in the U.S.?
Because right now, USA Badminton, there's no funding or support for our badminton Olympic hopefuls, unfortunately. So most of them are self-funded, if not all of them. They apply for grants as well, so then they can at least alleviate some costs and expenses for their traveling, for their tournaments. People only see once every 4 years, but it's actually every day out of the 4 years that they're trying to compete and qualify and represent. So it's a big endeavor. It's a big decision they have to make, and it takes a village.
Yeah, because if
to
you're
help
a good
everybody.
athlete, I mean, technically there are a lot of athletes who could be playing multiple sports and in track and field. So if they feel like they could get funded somewhere else,
Yes.
and lead a decent lifestyle, badminton will start losing people to other sport.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because athletes are athletes.
And a lot of our athletes are of Asian descent, right? That play the sport because of growing up in the Bay Area. You have a lot of like Chinese, Malaysians, Indians. So, what
But is
I'm
that
trying to
also
say
a
is,
problem because it's considered as an Asian sport and not really an American sport?
I feel like yes, it's a blessing we have more players, but we need players who can continue to win. I think that's more of the key. Look, Tiger Woods, he's not Caucasian, right? But he is the face of golf in the U.S. and he can keep winning. When Tony and I won after 2005, we were hoping that he can get status to become a citizen for 2008, but he was not, unfortunately. But then we waited for the next round, which is 2012. But
That
then
becomes too late.
Yeah, we were a little bit too old. I mean, of course, it's momentum, it's timing.
So you have to be a citizen to play in the Olympic team.
Yes, correct.
Even if you have a green card, you can play in the Olympic team.
Well,
Is
if you have a
that-
green card, you still need to make sure that you get your status before the Olympic.
You mean the citizenship?
Yeah, citizenship. Yeah, status
Okay.
to get citizenship. Yes, because
Okay,
you still have
got
to
it.
apply, and it might take time. Yes.
Got it. With respect to USA Badminton, funding aside, is there some good momentum in terms of people having private tournaments and preparing the players for international tournaments happening?
I feel like obviously 2028, everybody knows that it's right around the corner. So, for instance, my sponsor at Yonex, they are actively, finding ways to help players from North America, not just the U.S. Legends Vision was a perfect example where they had like Peter Gade and Lin Dan. Lee Chong Wei was actually a part of it too. Lin Dan was a part of it, but in the North America, Peter Gay was here, Lee Yong Dae was here, Tony is part of it. So they're creating training camps throughout the whole entire U.S. and Canada, or at least that's their goal, is to have them compete against each other. So then that way, sparring is less of an issue or a driver for them to be competitive by 2028. We have nonprofits too as well, which I can mention. So Badminton Beyond Borders. That's for recreational players, just great momentum, and founded by, or the board of directors is Tony as well, one of them. And then we also have USBEF, in short, the acronym, but it stands for U.S. Badminton Education Foundation. They've been supporting USA Badminton for numerous years. And also Quest for Gold is also another one that Coach Abhishek had recently formed, and every little bit helps because when we don't have a national training facility or a national association supporting, so to speak, someone like compared to like Denmark or England or China, Malaysia, then we have to find funds through other means. Either if it's through social media, how they do crowdfunding, we have to be creative. But every little bit of donation helps. Yes.
And we talked about First Ever Foundation on this. Do you want to talk a little bit about the foundation?
Yes. First Ever Foundation was formed by a gentleman called Rajiv Rai. And obviously the goal was to be the first ever foundation to fund scholarships for badminton players. So they're doing amazing things too as well. And no one has ever gotten any scholarships for badminton or being competitive. And that's also another one of my lifelong goals I would like to accomplish as a coach now after I retire, is to somehow strike the conversation, place my foot in the right door, and to ultimately have badminton in the NCAA scholarship in any form or way or shape. Because I feel like there's so much. This will be the game changer. This will be the bridge that connects players after they stop in high school. They're going to go to college. Why not grant them full partial scholarship while they compete and represent their university? Just like NCAA basketball. I know it's not an easy task because badminton, nobody knows badminton, but that's why we're here to change and to properly educate individuals.
So currently, no scholarships happen.
Unfortunately, no.
And so, where do you even start? With like, who is that? You go to colleges and tell them to sponsor, or take a sport down and then put badminton in, or can they add a new sport, or is that like a limited funding that it's like a if you spend for one, you don't get to spend on the other one. Like, where do you when people start?
I've had past conversations with one individual. Essentially, you would need, let's just say, let's take Ivy leagues and schools for example, or you can take the UC California system. You need to have X amount of schools supporting and vouching. Hey, look, we have a budget to support badminton, so then they can travel and compete against each other. Let's just take California, for instance. You have your Berkeley, UCLA, UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara, and San Diego. Let's just say we find 8 of them, and their athletic director approved a budget for them to travel and to compete, so then they can stay at whichever location, and then that way they can compete and win or compete in like a collegiate title, so to speak, and then from there on make it nationwide. So it's not an easy task, but please, if anybody has like the more direct way, please contact me. I would love to have that conversation and have you help me be a part of the process, because I would like to make this my living legacy for myself.
Yeah, and I think what I've heard with some folks giving funding and donations to colleges, they stipulated go to certain scholarships for football or for
Yes.
So there also needs to be a critical mass of people who want to
Yes, not just
fund
one.
badminton. So it sometimes takes time because it's a relatively new sport. But yeah, I think getting it into a college level funded sport is the key to changing the status in America, at least. And since we're talking about USA badminton, you mentioned there's some private leagues like UBX that you're part of. Do you want to talk a little bit about private, what that league is about? And
So UBX essentially stands for Ultimate Badminton Experience. So obviously we all know who just recently won. If you don't know who Victor Axelsen is, he essentially won 2 gold medals at 2 different Olympics, at the Japan Olympics and at the Paris Olympics, just literally like a couple months ago. He's an amazing individual, obviously. So the idea was, hey, look, let's try to raise the profile of the sport in North America. Not just, obviously everybody knows, if we can make badminton successful, North America would be one great way where everybody can feel the momentum, and Canada, US is where we would start. We would love to bring professional badminton leagues to North America. And as franchise, for instance, let's have 1 franchise in Canada or 2 franchises in Canada and compete against each other and show and educate everybody properly how badminton is played and display it.
so this is bringing
So that's
like
our
the
goal.
concept of, let's say, European Premier League, like a soccer kind of,
Yes.
or NFL franchise to
Correct.
like badminton.
Yes, correct.
Because private funding and sponsorship lead to better development of players, and
Correct.
And has something like this been done in badminton in other countries?
Yeah, it's not a new concept. Definitely, obviously, if you go to India, it's Indian
Badminton
Premier
League.
Badminton League, right? Everybody calls it differently. Of course, if you go to like Germany, it's called the Bundesliga. I'm sure Japan has their own corporate leagues as well. China, they always invite people. So it's happening all around and throughout the whole entire world. But we would like to have it here in North America. And with the support and the backing of Victor himself and his dad. Yes.
Have they formed the whole league teams yet, or are they still looking for sponsors? And
Yeah, we're still in the sponsor stage. So if you're interested, please reach out to
so
us.
if you're looking to sponsor a badminton team, is it major NFL cities or major
We've identified
badminton cities.
We've identified major badminton cities, but they're really closely
in
related.
US and Canada.
Yes, in the U.S. and Canada.
So if you want to sponsor, we'll put the link in the show notes. Coming back to badminton, what is some of the other nations doing? Like China has won so many medals. I think China is the country has won the most number of badminton medals, I believe. Of course, there are other big badminton nations. What are they doing that we are not doing?
I think you're correct in the sense where China has had a long or rich history of winning medals, whether if it's team events, individuals, Olympics, and at the same time, rightfully so, because they have a pretty big population.
Yeah.
And badminton is pretty much in their DNA or blood. It's just like us in basketball, right? Like, hey, you're
And they
born-
celebrate. They celebrate these heroes. So whatever celebrates we get more of it. You know,
Yes.
if you're not a national hero doing archery, you're probably not as a young kid coming up in archery. They're like not incentivized to go into that sport.
And it's televised, right? Like, what? Well, they're great at table tennis. They're great at diving, badminton. So when you see your country winning, you're like, hey, look, this I'm built to do this.
Yeah, I heard about the Chinese Olympic practices. This is back many years ago. I don't know if they still do it, but they call it catch them young. So they actually go to these rural schools and look at kids who are potential Olympic winners, and they take them out and then put them in a special school starting very young age. Like you're looking at 8 to
Correct.
12, and then that's all they do.
how they develop,
and they get education as part of it. So like a state-funded scheme, if I may. Do you think something like that probably would work in US, or you think it's something like that is happening or in any circles?
Well, to answer your question, these are the things that they're doing that stands out or differentiate. Obviously, they have a big talent pool, so they're reaching out. I've heard not stories, essentially like testaments where, hey, look, they're measuring your height at a certain age. If you have flat feet, they will not consider you. So, but they have that luxury to do so, right? If you go to Indonesia, if you have flat feet, as long as you can still win and be number one, you'll be on the team. But it's a lot harder if you're in China.
Yeah, because
if you're
that's
not as
more
tall.
number of people.
Exactly. They're like, hey, look, we have to limit.
Yeah.
But essentially, yes, they are starting their scouting process really, really early. And that's how they differentiate and stand out. And after I won the World Championships, guess what? We were invited by a lot of countries, Denmark. We go to Japan and do clinics. And why? Because they're trying to learn from us. So that's how you stand out. What is working nowadays?
Yeah.
Hey, Howard, Tony, what are you guys doing to help you win? And guess what? Japan has been a powerhouse the last 5 to 8 years. It's pretty amazing to see the kind of the platform shift a little bit. So it used to be like mainly just like China, Malaysia, Korea. Now Japan is a part of the mix.
Yeah.
Now you have like France, a young junior.
Yeah, they had a decent
winning.
showing at the Olympics.
Exactly. So, and then you have, India is amazing too. Yeah, they're number one world ranked.
Yeah.
Was number one, right? Men's double. So it's great to see underdogs because I'm an underdog myself. So it's great to see other people be a part of the journey.
Are the coaching styles different? Are they doing something differently than you think? The Chinese have a different style compared to the Indonesians and the Indians or the Danish. You think it varies?
If you ask me, I think ultimately the Chinese, they've always had a certain way and an approach. Hey, look, this is how you should do it. This is the best way. No and, buts, or whatever. This is how you should do it. But then throughout the years, coaches have evolved, meaning you have Indonesian coaches going to India or like, you had Peter Gay from Denmark going to France and raising their level. So you've had like a big infuse of like different style. So everybody is pretty much,
Like Tony
creative,
came to
in
US.
Japan and US, exactly. He kind of taught his way. So there's disciples everywhere. And all around, we're always learning, but more importantly, it's not like as one way now. I believe, unless you're like in the powerhouse where you can still manage to win. But Japan has a lot of influence from Indonesia and Malaysia too as well. You know, you have Rixi going to Philippines, going to Thailand, helping out, and then now he's in Malaysia. So they're everywhere. So it's an infuse of a mix of different styles. But yeah, there's no one set way.
In Europe as well, Denmark and England are two. I mean, now France as well. I mean, Spain too. Carolina Marin.
Yes, amazing.
Do you see a difference in kind of athletes? Victor, he's tall. He's I don't know, 6 something.
Yes, he's a
and you
6'5"
see a
at
lot
least,
of these other players are shorter. And when I grew up, they actually said being shorter has an advantage in badminton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because of
More explosive,
agility and all that. Do you think the kind of players and the physique matter in badminton? And for a lot of people who don't know, badminton is the fastest racket sport in the world. What, 300, 400 miles an hour when you hit a birdie?
Yeah.
And faster than... So the only sport comparable apparently is snowboarding.
Wow.
Because that reaches a certain miles per hour the human body reaches when you're doing that. But from a racket sport, this is by far like the fastest sport. So my question is there a certain physique that's more beneficial for badminton when you see these nations or when you yourself pick players?
Well, similar to tennis, you see a lot of singles players, great competitive singles players, top singles players. They're taller and slankier, more slanky because they cover the ground more. Back then, like you mentioned, maybe it's not as critical, but I feel like there's more plus than minuses to being tall. Of course, we're not talking like 7'2", right? If you're slow, you have to be explosive, you have to be agile, your reflex has to be lightning quick. But taking that aside, I feel like it doesn't hurt to be tall. Like you have the number ones from men's doubles from India. They're really tall. They're both like 6'2", 6'3" minimum. And I feel like I'm a dying breed. There's not really.
And sometimes they also say the combination of tall.
Lefty righties and tall and short.
That probably works with the combinations.
I think they're trying a little bit of everything. But to answer your question, I feel like being tall is not necessarily like a disadvantage as long as you know how to train properly. Like you have to squat more if you're playing doubles because there's more flat shots. Whereas if you're taller, then you can reach farther, right? Which will help you overall in the long run.
The reach is better if you're tall, but it might affect your agility because you have to recover.
Explosive, yes.
Yeah.
Or if they smash your body, you have long limbs, then it's not as a reflex. It's not as
Got it.
reactive.
My last sort of question on this segment of which we call Badminton Nations is which nations or which area of the world are you most excited about the future of badminton in terms of promise that you see?
Well, obviously, I'm biased, right? I'm from North America. There's a lot of momentum. I see it in Canada. I see it in the U.S. And we have 2028 coming up, literally like right next door. And I know because I'm a living testament to, hey, weird things, amazing things happen home team in the U.S. on home soil. So I naturally would like to continue to push, and I feel like there's so much we can still do. Our junior development squad, our Olympic OFO teams, US and Canada, and UBX, that's getting ready to launch next year. So there's a lot that and the thing is, we can't do it on our own. That's why we're called the United States of America, right? We shouldn't be like divided. We should be united. So it takes a village to raise and to create champions, right? I'm a byproduct of the Olympic Training Center because I went through it, and it takes more than just one individual thing. So big, firm believer that there's a lot that we need to do, but with the support of everybody, we can do it and get there so much faster to win our first medal, if not gold medal in 2028.
Right. Go 2028.
Yes. Go USA.
So other than USA, any other country to watch out for in badminton?
Obviously, like I mentioned, the man himself, Victor Axelsen, I think he just recently... not confirmed, but more have made a decision to continue to pursue one more Olympics. So hey, I wish him the best because he is a living legend himself.
Is he trying to be the Usain Bolt of badminton? Three
Well,
medals.
let's put it this way: the GOAT of badminton is Mr. Lin Dan from China. He is like undisputed, right?
How many Olympic medals do you think he has won?
Well, so here's the thing: he won 2 gold, right, and that was it.
So he wants to.
But Victor
beat-
actually won more than Lin Dan. Victor already surpassed.
So but he has 2.
Victor won 2 gold and he beat Lin Dan for bronze on his first Olympics. But
So he's won
I'm not
bronze too.
discounting Lin Dan. He is the most decorated.
Yeah.
Like if you watch him play in 2004, nobody was even close. He is that dynamic, that explosive, and he's not very tall enough, but he is unbelievable when you watch him at his like prime.
Yeah. No, Lee Chong Wei was good, but then he just got caught up with Lin Dan.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it was a
it's like,
different era. He would
yeah,
have.
exactly. But he actually won the most titles ever. But unfortunately, yes, during like the critical ones, he did beat Lin Dan during his last Olympics before he played against Chen Lo and he took silver. But yeah, these are amazing.
Yeah.
These are like the Djokovic, Federer,
And,
Nadal. Yeah,
Nadal.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, we will end this third segment. We'll come back after a break.
Awesome.
Welcome to the last segment of our conversation with Howard. So, Howard, we talked about your career as a player, as a coach, talked about badminton and nations and USA and all the work you want to do. I always believe that playing a sport, especially at top levels, is a great thing in itself. But for people who don't want to actually compete at these elite levels, which is not something that everybody can or want to do, these sports still teach very valuable life lessons. My dad was a pro soccer player growing up in India, where soccer was not that popular. But he always told me there are qualities that athletes have that other people don't have. And a lot of countries have these quota system for government jobs that they hire athletes for. And the idea was that they are different in certain, ways. So what do you think is something that you got for your real life, being a athlete, being a sports person?
I feel like being an athlete very blessed to be an athlete and represent the U.S., right? But more importantly, it has taught me to never give up. It has taught me to be okay to kind of go at your own pace. It's okay to make mistakes, right? Like you're not competing or comparing to the best. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but be yourself, but be original, right? Of course, also once you become or made a decision to do whatever you want to do, whether if it's work, in a relationship, you want to be an athlete, whatever it is, you want to go to school and get your degree, make sure that you make that decision. You don't have to ask for permission. Just do it. Of course, I'm not telling you to be reckless or whatever, but because are you going to be okay, at the end of your deathbed? Like, hey, look, this is everything I've done, right? There's no looking back. There's no stones unturned. I think that's kind of been my motto that I've kind of lived by. Hey, look, I don't have to be the best badminton player, but I can, be the best at whatever I decide I want it to be. And of course, there's a lot of qualities like your, dad had mentioned. You need to be flexible. You need to persevere, because when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And there's a lot of times, let me tell you, I train 5.5 days a week. I put in about 7 hours a day. And that's before driving and commuting in traffic. But 65-70% of the time, I want to wake up in the morning and just, I don't want to make it. I can't do it.
Because when you see your friends out there,
Yeah.
just chilling,
Yes.
having girlfriends,
Yeah, exactly.
or
It's just- there's
like leading
sacrifices.
eating that burger.
Yes, hanging out, going to high school prom.
Yeah.
Which I
And what do
never
you? How
had.
do you feel? Like, because as an athlete growing up, I remember summer, 8 hours a day of training, continuously 6 days a week, and I felt all my friends that having fun in life. How do you? Yeah. How do you? Yeah.
It's a decision. Unfortunately, it's a sacrifice you have to kind of make. For instance, I met my wife through badminton. She used to play too as well, and she ended up going to high school prom with someone else. And I'm like, wow. But it was a long distance relationship, right? So there are a lot of things you have to kind of forego, and you have to sacrifice, but for a greater purpose, right? That's why you have to be very clear. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you try, and this is not the right thing after 2 years, or God forbid, unfortunately, injuries do happen, and some, like their careers, end early, unfortunately. So that's why what's more important is, hey, look, you plan something, you make that decision, you don't have to ask for permission, right? As long as it's genuine, something you want to do, just go for it, right? You have my permission, right? Of course, you have to persevere when times are tough, and you have to be flexible along the way too, right?
And I feel like it also teaches, I call it the skill of delayed gratification. Because you have to train hard for a tournament coming up
Yes.
6 months down the line. It teaches you to take pain today
Yes.
for a pleasure down the line. And not everybody can have the discipline to do it.
Yes, especially nowadays, like everything is instant gratification.
Yeah.
Right? You'd ask this sprinter, hey, look,
Yeah,
you're
you
running
could
like the record time, right? But then
Yeah.
they're like, hey, look, I am training 4 years to run
run
this.
10 seconds.
Exactly. So
basically.
nobody knows like the 4 years of sacrifice
Yeah.
to actually be in the limelight. So it's not easy. It's not for everybody.
Mm.
Yeah. But at least you know if that's for you or not.
And when it comes to the I'm gonna call it the juice word, the squeeze.
Yes.
Does it reach a point, or did it reach a point for you where this working out 7 hours a day did not make sense?
Yes.
Because I don't know, life has moved on, or
No, definitely. There are multiple times when I'm like, wow, is it still, worth the pursuit? Am I still doing the right thing? Do I still have the passion for it? Right? It's not easy for sure, because you're playing, my sport at least, badminton. You don't make a lot of money, right? But luckily we have support from, it's called OJOB, Olympic Player Opportunity Jobs, I think, back then. So in other words, I was working part-time at the Home Depot, right? And they were supporting me, and they were essentially paying me full-time for being an athlete. So I made ends meet. It was not easy. I've had support along the way. If not, then it would have to be an individual thing or a support from family members. So it's not for everybody, for sure. And yes, hey, do I still have the passion? Do I still want to wake up? Why am I doing it? It's like, why don't I do something else? But that's why I try it, and then, and you'll know, right? Give it an honest go. That's more important. Because I feel like life is not determined by the number of medals you have around your neck. Because there's only one Michael Phelps and Apollo Ono, right? Summer and Winter Olympian, the most decorated. But more so, to me, I feel like life is determined based on how much impact you've made throughout your journey, and impact that you've made to each and every individual. I think that's more important. Because I had one individual walk up to me, hey, great, good job, what you're doing. But what are you going to do now after you won? I'm like, wow, what do you mean? Yes, I can win more. That's my next goal, win double the amount of, and triple the amount of medals. But, okay, so how does that translate? Are you going to make an impact in the community? In USA Badminton, there's more to just yourself. The sport has to be greater. The cause has to be greater. That's why I've made it my mission to give back to the sport, because it taught me so much, gave me so much opportunities. Yes, am I a millionaire? Probably not. But hey, I am very blessed to be where I'm at today because of the sport.
hey, we are living in Silicon Valley. Many people can claim to be a millionaire, but how many people can claim to be a world badminton champion?
Funny
Not
that
many.
I mean, I'm very
you
blessed.
should be
Like
very
I
proud
mentioned,
of what you've done, I think. And,
I have a lot of adult students that I coach too. Same deal. They're all tech supervisors and
Yeah.
managers, but at the same time, they come to me, right? Because they feel like, hey, look, people pay me to brainwash them, so I'm very blessed to have that opportunity. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a personal question among
Yes.
one of the last few questions. You were a champion growing up in badminton, like all the way. Do you think you got a lot of girls because of badminton?
Do I think I have a lot of girls? Definitely not.
Not like if you were a basketball star. But
I mean,
still, you were
yes,
you were a popular kid.
We have our, like, so to speak, groupies.
Okay.
Right. There are opportunities where I chose badminton. So maybe partly because that was, young, whatnot. But it was, at least I've had opportunities where. But no, I was never really like, the guy who got all the girls, anyways.
Okay.
So fair enough.
Well, kids watching are, hey, what's the motivation for me to become a champ, huh?
But if whatever you do, just be great at it, and people will notice, because you're not looking for recognition. Like, they will naturally come to you because you're the best at what you do, and I think that's more important. You're not proving it to anybody. You're just trying to be the best you can be with the time given that we have on Earth. I think that's more organic. That's more genuine. For anybody. Yeah.
So when should somebody who's playing retire? Is there a certain parameters or criteria you think people should think about?
It's a personal decision. It's not easy when that road crosses. Like, recently, Nadal just announced, and of course, Federer was it last year, like a year and a half ago. Everybody goes through, this juncture. It's not easy. Marin got an injury during the Olympics, and she's vowing to come back, and I, support that, But it's a personal decision you have to make. But when you don't have as much fun as you used to, then I feel like, at least for me during that time, hey, look, am I still as competitive as I used to be? If not, maybe it's time for me to do something else. It could be a supporting cast or a role. The team behind the team. I don't have to be on the court. I could be a coach to guide someone up there. Like, for instance, I am coaching an individual called Josh in the Bay Area. He's amputee on the left hand, and he's inspired to qualify for the 2028 Olympics. So I'm like, hey, I support that, because we need a bigger team. And guess what? Now is the time. There's never a better time. It's never a perfect time, right? Hey, and try it. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. At least you know. So I want to be the person that people can reach out to and be like, hey, look, how do I do this? I would love to give you the advice, for sure, based on my experience. But I can't walk the walk for you. You have to walk, the journey itself. But yeah.
To conclude this conversation, what is an advice for a kid or parent of the kid looking at various sports to enter because they believe in sport, or they want the kid to participate in something, and why badminton in US?
No, great question. There's so many sports out there that they can choose. And as a kid, the reason why they play sports is because they're having fun. They love what they do, right? So that's why as a parent myself, my son is not into badminton, which is okay, because I feel like, hey, as long as you're doing an activity, a sport, you're staying busy, you're learning the values, you're not getting in trouble. So as a parent, I've kind of done my job, because I'm supporting you, even though I'm a full-time Uber driver now for free, taking you around classes. But let them try whatever they love. They'll gravitate towards one or two things, and they will ultimately pick. But more importantly, just have fun. As a kid, winning is not important. Let me tell you, it's not important, because I've had individuals who've won, and they actually don't like the position they're in. Like, honestly
miserable
speaking,
winners.
yeah, they're like, what next? Now what? There's no gratification. Look, it's the journey. I still believe, right? And guess what? This is really important. Make sure you celebrate small wins in life along the way, because it's not about, hey, from A to B, I'm done. Hey, along the way, halfway through, did you meet someone? Did you make an impact? That's more important. Hey, look, we were able to do this, and then now this made a difference for this person. It's a journey. Because look, most people will not get to the very end, unfortunately. But have you done whatever you could, and are you happy with the decision you've made? I think that's more.
There's so much more you can get out of playing badminton or a sport than the hardware.
It'd be great. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have the hardware, and that's what I tell my students. Don't be like Howard. Be better than Howard. Win more than what I can win. Then you've done my job. Or if, guess what? I've taught you X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. Now are you confident enough to go back and teach your class what I've taught you? Then you've preached my Bible, so to speak, my sport, because now you're spreading my love, and I thank you for it. So,
Well, on that note, thank you, Howard, for the conversation today, and it was a pleasure.
never a dull moment. We'll do it again.
All right, ciao.
Take care.
Take care.